Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Luminary podcast. I am your host. My name is Annie Perry. I'm a professional psychic channel, a seer, a multidimensional being of light, just like you. If this is your first episode here, welcome. If you are tuning in from YouTube, just know that there are 110 other episodes available exclusively on podcast apps. And when I say exclusively, I mean before I started my YouTube, and I never found the time to upload all of them to YouTube. So they live on the podcast apps, and there are dozens and dozens of topics for you to sift and sort through. Recently, I was looking through my podcast stats, and I noticed there were quite a few recent downloads of the original trailer, and I was like, oh no, oh no, it wasn't even called the Luminary podcast back when we started. So it was time for a new trailer, so that is out now, and I feel really happy with it. Feels very aligned for where we are and where we are going. So even if you're a new or an OG listener, you can check that out. I think the OG listeners will definitely appreciate the evolution. And either way, I am so grateful that you are here. We are finally back after I took the month of January off. And I do apologize in advance if you were listening to the episode Hello 2025, because it has been archived. And I did say at the beginning of the episode that I was going to archive it at the end of January, because it really just had January specific announcements and information. And really, this episode is about 2025. This is about the energy themes. This is about what we are going to be experiencing and what you can expect for this group, right? Because we all ascend in waves. And so if you're here in my field, you are part of this wave right now. And so these 8 topics are what to expect this year, what you are probably already experiencing, because many of these energies started to enter into the field back in November, some of them all the way back in September, and they will be with us all the way through 2025 as you go through your personal evolution. January finished out the sacred season that occurs every year, normally starting around 12/12 and going all the way through the end of the month in January. But this year started on 12/3. It started early. We got an extra 10 days of sacred season energy. Now, just because it's called sacred season does not mean that it's all love and fluff and rainbows. I think that if you were paying attention to what's happening in the 3D reality, you were like, wow, that looks like a hot mess. And that's my nice way of putting it, okay? That looks like a hot mess. But if you were attuning yourself into your 5th dimensional being, if you were allowing yourself those moments of presence, of stillness, of meditation, you would feel the tremendous energy shifts that are occurring right now. And I'm not talking about the 3D reality. I'm talking about the incoming energy from our higher selves that is being channeled through us into this reality. And we are literally transforming a 3D, 4D dimensional planes into 5th dimension. This does not happen overnight. This will not be accomplished during your lifetime. It will not be done probably for a few hundred years, but you are a part of the process, and your life is a part of that transition. You will live the rest of your life from 2012 until your last breath a 3D, 4D, 5D being. You will never again experience Earth as just 3D, 4D, right? It used to be 3D when you were waking, 4D when you were asleep, and you would go into the astral realm and dream. And those realities, that energy is being brought back to 0 point, which is why it looks like a collapse. And many channels talk about the collapse of the 3D reality. We're taking all of that energy back to 0 point, and then we're going to use all of that energy to create a 5th dimensional reality. It's going to be supportive. It's going to be integrated. We're not going to forget the history of 3D reality, although we will have a very different perspective. When we look back in 100, 200 years, we'll have a very different perspective of the history on Earth. I think that some people are already attuning to that and realizing like, hey, if I remember some of my past lives, the history I'm taught today is not exactly what I experienced in my past lives. And I think that some of the distortion is going to be removed, and we're going to be seeing things very, very clearly in a couple hundred years from now. But allowing yourself as ground crew, as the agents on the ground, to start to feel into the vision of what we are creating through our energy, through our lifetimes. There's millions of us here as starseeds, as light workers, as light leaders, because we create this reality through our life experience. My life experience is not going to touch every corner of the world. Neither is yours, neither is yours, neither is yours. But if you start to see us planted all around the world, we start to create these energy fields. We start to create these networks. We start to connect the networks. The energy starts to travel. The energy starts to get stronger. Now, across time, space, dimension, and reality, we are co-creating what many call the new Earth. And for a long time, I didn't really like that phrase. It felt too crunchy for me until my guides really started talking about the golden age, the new Earth, and if you've heard people out in the 3D reality try to use those topics when talking about 3D reality, that we're not talking about the same thing, okay? They can use the same words and the same phrases as me, but we're not talking about the same thing. I'm talking about a 5th dimensional reality. I'm talking about the ascension that we're going through. I'm talking about the transition from 3rd density into 4th density consciousness. That's what I'm talking about. And you might hear people out in the 3D reality try to use those terms like golden age, everything will be revealed, no more secrets, when talking about 3rd dimensional things. And the truth is, you can never apply these concepts to 3D reality because those realities are being brought back to 0 point. They are being collapsed. And so maybe on a very deep soul level, these individuals are trying to tap into the new Earth and what is being created, but their energy needs to go through a refinement process. And that refinement process is what many of us are right in the middle of. So I say that to remind you to have discernment. We're going to talk about discernment and judgment today. To have discernment when hearing individuals apply these new Earth terms to 3D realities. And just allow yourself the grace to say, okay, their soul is looking for what is happening, but they may not be in a deeper understanding of what is happening yet. And so if I hear them make promises about a golden age in a 3D reality, you can come back to your own inner wisdom and your own inner discernment and say, I think it's going to probably look a little bit different. So we are seeing all across the world this collapse of 3D down to 0 point and the rising up of individuals already alchemizing that energy. So you are an alchemist. That's what you came here to do. We came here to alchemize this energy, especially if you feel that you are the black sheep of the family. You're the only one in your friend group or family group that's awake. You might feel like, I'm the only one going to therapy. I'm the only one like trying to process this trauma, trying to understand what happened in my past so that I can change my future. That is alchemy energy. You are an alchemist. You are the one that's collapsing that energy, bringing it back to 0 point. Now it is energy that is ready to be used to create the new. This happens on such a subtle level for us every single day in our lives. Every time you change something from the way that you used to do it to a new way of doing it based on a development in your own consciousness and your own awareness, you've just done that process. You've just collapsed that little bit of 3D energy, brought it to 0 point, used your God power, your God self power to take 0 point energy and create a 5th dimensional result, which is something more aligned with your higher truth, the truth of who you are. And a good way to measure that, if you're like, what the fuck is the truth of who I am? Well, only you can answer that. But a good way to measure that is by doing it this new way, by making this new choice, by taking this new road to work every day. Do I feel better? Do I feel better? Do I feel more at ease? Do I feel less stress? Do I feel less expectation on my shoulders? Do I feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more at ease, a little bit better? Does this make me feel incrementally a little bit good? Then you know you're moving in the right direction, right? These are energy shifts. They're not always going to be big neon signs in the 3D reality that says like, you're going the right way. Like you did it. You're on the right road to work every day instead of the wrong one, right? Okay, so we're leaving all of that duality in 3D and we're following energy now, energy in the 5th dimension. So when I see a group of people, and there are mass protests happening in countries all around the world right now, when I see that, I see a group of alchemists coming together to do their work. I'm like, they're getting shit done. They're getting shit done. They're taking a 3D energy and they are in that process, collapsing it back to 0 point, getting ready for that energy to be used to create something new. And we've seen a lot of that in January. I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that energy. That's just the alchemical process, allowing yourself to become more comfortable with the alchemical process, allowing yourself to take a step back, grieve what you need to grieve about the 3D reality, and allow yourself to remember that everything is brought back into reconciliation in the 5th dimension. There's only wholeness there. There's no separation. In order to create the 3D reality, they had to split the cell, right? And so that's an energy term that was used for all of the energy in order to create duality, the concepts of right and wrong, the concepts of good and bad, the hero and the villain. They had to split the cell in order to have that story. That's a dualistic reality. 5th dimension, all of that cell is brought back into reconciliation, brought back into wholeness. Everything is one again. You're going to start to feel, as we get deeper into this ascension process that's going to last the rest of your life, right? There's no end date when we're like, whew, we did it, it's done. Well, maybe there is, but honestly, that date at this time is about 900 plus years in the future when there will be no more ascension work on this planet. So right now, we're really in the thick of it. Your ground crew. But allowing yourself to just get more and more comfortable with this and stepping into mastery. And mastery is one of the topics that we're going to talk about today. So January, very big month. Actually, November, very big month energetically. December, very big month energetically. And January. So a lot of transition, a lot of collapsing of 3D realities, a lot of energy and shit stirred up. The pot is being stirred, right? Okay. And the alchemists are here. We are here. We know what to do. You have an inner master who knows exactly what to do. And 2025 is going to be one of those years that you really feel this inner master coming forward within you and saying, I've got this. I've got this. Before, I felt very shaky. I felt very uncertain. I needed to do a lot of grieving of the old reality. I needed to let a lot of energy purge out of me and through me. And yes, I had to take a few minutes to stare at the implosion of the 3D reality with my jaw on the floor and my eyes wide. And I had to feel the injustice of it all. I had to feel all of the outrage of it. I had to feel everything. Taking a moment to grieve. Allowing the inner master to come forward and say, I actually know what to do. because you've done this before on many, many other planets. That's where you're drawing that inner master together for this exclusive experience on Earth. That feels like a pretty good introduction, if I do say so myself. So I took the month of January off. I went on family vacation. Yeah, it reminded me of why I haven't been on family vacation in 18 years. And I think me and some of my siblings kind of agreed telepathically that it would be another 18 years before we take another family vacation. It was just so weird, and yet my guides were like, this was a really important event for you to see how far you have come in your own alchemical work within the family unit, within the genes and the DNA and the lineage and all of that came down through the pipeline that you've worked on alchemizing over the last 5 years. And of course, this family vacation, which is like a microcosm of the work that I do on this entire planet, right? And it happened during my 5th year anniversary of awakening. My awakening was very abrupt. It was not a smooth transition. It was like being shocked awake. And I have some more episodes coming up this year where I'll talk more recently, I guess, about the awakening process. I have some older episodes, but I really want to bring through some newer episodes for those of you that are going through your awakening and then your galactic awakening and then your soul purpose awakening, all different levels, different layers. But family vacation was definitely a good thermometer for seeing how far I've come and the temperature that I'm able to hold in my energy and in my frequency and what I want and what I don't want. And it was so exhausting. I need a vacation from that vacation. Like I was like on the plane leaving and I was like looking up, flights to other places. And I was like, I need a vacation from this vacation. But then I returned home and went through another portal of sickness. I was sick all of January, and I feel like you can still kind of hear it in my voice. So there's a lot of very deep cellular alchemy happening, and that was part of what I talked about in that Hello 2025 episode. Allowing yourself to go through those portals of sickness, allowing yourself to feel like, okay, I don't need to rush to and force myself to be healed immediately so that I can be the healthiest spiritual influencer on the planet. Just allowing yourself to have that human moment, to have that 3D moment, allowing a lot of that energy to just purge out of your system. We have to remember that most of us 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you were living a fully third dimensional life, and then you awakened and you started alchemizing all that energy. Well, all of that energy was with you for all of those years. So for me, it was with me for 27, 28 years of third dimensional energy. You don't just alchemize all of that overnight. It takes time, and I'm still in that refinement process. And it probably will be for many decades to come, right? This is not an overnight process. This is really about remembering the experience of Ascension again and remembering that when you are changing things in 3D, unfortunately, they do take time because they live in the river of time. And we don't just get to fish everything out of there. Sometimes we have to hop in that river and float down it and experience the passage of time as we are doing this work. So I returned and I taught Activate Vision 2025. We had an absolutely phenomenal experience. The co-creation of that container, I truly believe, was this kind of just turning point in your guys' lives. Those of you who partook, those of you who will partake, you can still get Activate Vision on wellspringofficial.com. And it's just phenomenal. What's so interesting, I haven't told my students this yet, so I know you guys are all listening. What's so interesting is I had all of these notes of like what I was going to teach. And then the day of the lesson, all of these new notes would come through from my higher self. And so the whole course ended up being different than what I thought I was going to teach. And every time I sat down, my higher self would just slide into the chair and be like, I've got this. And she would just teach the whole course. And I know that some people who've taken a lot of courses with me and done a lot of work with me, you can tell when my higher self slides in and is just like jamming with these super high level, fifth dimensional concepts, frequencies, knowing when I need to remind you to breathe, just so attuned, so tapped in to your higher levels and teaching you in a higher dimensional plane. Some people kind of have like these out of body experiences when they come to my classes and courses. In fact, actually, many of you have told me that you have out-of-body experiences or supernatural experiences just listening to the podcast. So you can imagine when you're in like kind of a closed container, a closed class, the energy is just like turned up all the way. And so my higher self would slide in and teach that class. And I was just so blown away every day by what they were teaching, because there is the lower mind. There is the 3D version of myself that is attempting to understand the 5D version. And they're just blown away by the concepts, by the teachings, by the truths, by the energy. So it was really, really phenomenal. I'm so grateful to everyone who partook in that class. It just really feels like, it felt like we were in the new earth. It felt like a new dawn. It felt like we were in that moment of luminosity, that moment of illumination, that moment when the sun comes over the horizon. And I know that you guys felt it too. You guys had so many stories of like the things that started to not just manifest in your life, but clarity on the decision and the next steps. And all of these pieces start falling into place because you experience that higher frequency and you got the next piece of the puzzle. So now more pieces are falling into place. And for me, something really profound that came out of that course was this concept, this way of manifesting that I'm now going to attempt to trademark, and it's called presence manifestation. And it was just so clear, and it was so just like dropped in my lap from my higher levels. And I was like, I have studied manifestation since the day that I started having my awakening. That was my gateway in, was how can I create my own reality? And then once I started learning how to do that, I immediately started teaching others everything that I was learning. And so over the last 5 years, we've been in this refinement process of what is the easiest way to manifest that collapses the most time, that feels like a quantum leap, that moves your identity and shifts your reality just through energy. And I've always known through my higher levels this is possible, but also you have to kind of overcome all of those mental barriers, those 3D thoughts, those 3D beliefs in order to get to that level of clarity within yourself. And presence manifestation was really like, man, it was like you're driving a Honda one day and then your higher levels just like drops that Maserati in your lap and you're just like, boom, boom, boom. You just like feel that energy. You're just like, this is so crisp. This is so clear. This is so new earth technology. New earth technology is not always going to be in the physical. Like, yeah, there will be some things that have a fifth dimensional frequency infused into them, but true fifth dimensional new earth technology, baby, that is energetic. And so I felt that presence manifestation, like that vroom, vroom, vroom. Oh man, it was just so, like, you could tell I'm so Arcturian because I just love vehicles and I love that technology aspect to it. Whatever is at the leading edge, whatever is like cutting edge, the Arcturians are the creators of the most advanced light ships in our local universe. And so it felt like they just dropped that into my lap and I was like, yes, let's go. So many of you who were in Activate Vision, immediately that group kind of came into Elysium Identity. Elysium is this quarterly group coaching program that I've been teaching since summer of 2024. And this is where huge change happens. So if you're like, I'm ready for that vroom vroom feeling of like getting into my new earth understandings, clearing out the BS and the BS, the bullshit and the blind spots, and allowing myself to create a new life at a quantum level, a quantum speed, collapse time, quantum leap, step into new identities rapidly. That's what we do in those containers. It is the deep work. It is the deep work, and it pays off. Like, the return on your investment is just, it's beyond words, and it's beyond anything physical that you could manifest, but so many amazing manifestations, because I love to see you guys living more abundant, more luxurious lives, more aligned with the fifth dimension. So we have started that journey, and that container Elysium is closed for the winter session. But if you think that you want to join the spring session, make sure that you either send me an email through my contact page on the website or a DM on Instagram and let me know. I'd like to be added to the waitlist so that I can get the details on that. These are small groups. I like to keep my coaching very small because I want to give you so much attention. I'm not about, let me get 45 people into this group and then no one gets my one-on-one attention. Small groups, under 10 people, that can just have that fullness and the richness of the experience. And we've got so many new things coming down the pipeline from Wellspring Official, from Luminary, from my social media channels. All of January, me and my guides were like doing this big planning, deconstructing the old, constructing the new, higher frequency, more alignment, more impact, more power. So I've got a lot of construction zones going on the back end over here. And I'm really excited to start getting some of these new things out to you guys. So enough with announcements. Let's jump into the 8 energy themes of 2025, right? For our microcosm, our wave of the ascension. Number 1, my guide started telling me this back in December. The theme for 2025 is everything is revealed. Bashar channeled something very similar for their 2025 forecast. And their way of putting it, their interpretation was no more secrets. And you are going to experience this sense of everything's revealed, all of the secrets are out of all of the closets across a very equal plane of existence. The reason for this is because of our psychic nature. Our psychic nature is coming back online. Everything is becoming more transparent. Everything, all levels, all layers of reality, everything is going to become more transparent. Nothing can be hidden in a 5D reality because everything in a 5D reality is telepathy. Energy cannot lie. We can only lie and hide things in a 3D reality. And that reality is being collapsed and it's going away. That is why we do not have our psychic gifts fully enabled in the 3D reality, because then you wouldn't be able to lie. You wouldn't be able to have these really deep beliefs that like you are this identity. You wouldn't be able to construct these facades of lifetimes for yourself. You wouldn't be immersed in the kind of play-like experience, right? As if you were an actor in a play. You wouldn't be able to have that kind of experience if you had your full psychic gifts. You wouldn't be able to have that experience. We can only lie and hide things in a 3D reality. And because that reality is going away, everything is becoming more and more transparent on all levels. This is why authenticity and highest truth are something that I've been talking about for the last couple of years. Allowing yourself to embrace the truth of who you are, your authenticity, your truth. Allowing yourself to come into a place of remembrance that I do know how to speak my truth in a way that doesn't put everyone else down, that isn't, this kind of jagged a knife in everyone's heart, that allows you to honor your truth, right? Whenever we hear someone who's very truthful, who's very authentic, we're always like, man, that's a breath of fresh air. Like, I like being around you. And that's because spirit recognizes truth. So you are going to have this sense of just clear knowings about yourself and others. Your psychic gifts are coming online. And many of you started this wave in 2023, 2024, 2025. Everything's kind of moving up another level. And you're going to feel those clear knowings within yourself. I don't know how to tell you that I know, but I just know that I know this. You're going to have rapid revelations about yourself and others. There aren't going to be the opportunity to have hidden lives. There aren't going to be the fractures of self where you are a different person in all of these situations, where you're a different person at work, you're a different person at home, you're a different person with your friends. You're not going to be able to have all of these fractured realities because everything is going to become more transparent. You're going to feel yourself saying, I don't have the energy to be all these different versions of myself. I only have the energy to be myself, and that's really all that I want, to just be my true authentic self in all situations with all different people. In fact, we talked in depth in Activate Vision 2025 about what that means for you and your 3D job, because most people go into their 3D job and your 3D job says, I expect you to change and be who I want you to be. In order for you to have this job, you need to conform to this kind of robotic version, this kind of template that we have of the perfect ideal employee. You need to embrace all of our beliefs. You need to embrace all of our values. You need to change yourself in order to become someone that fits in here. And if that is not aligned with your truth, which for some people it's going to be aligned and for some people it's not. If that's not aligned with your truth, you're going to start feeling a very deep, palpable friction because of the level of transparency that we now have. Everything is revealed. There's no more secrets. There's no more hiding. There's no more fractures in your identity. You're not going to be able to have all these multiple identities. It's just going to be you all the time. The real you. And a lot more people are going to just simply wake up and just know. You're just going to know more about who you really are. You're just going to know that you're a light worker. You're just going to know that you're meant to be a Reiki healer. You're just going to have this feeling of knowing. That's the transparency coming through from your higher levels. A lot of the feelings that many starseeds used to have around, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what my purpose is. I'm having this awakening experience. It's very disorienting. A lot of those experiences are going to start coming back into what I call reconciliation, which is, I didn't know, now I know. Now I know why I'm here. I just woke up one day and I just knew what I needed to do and I knew where I was going and I knew the next step. Transparency from your higher levels. Everything is revealed. No more secrets. And that brings us into number 2. Number 2, energy themes for 2025 for this group in Ascension. Acceptance of your mastery. Acceptance of who you are. Integrating the multidimensional self and smoothing out the lines. You're a multidimensional being. No, you do not just like one thing. No, you are not just a painter. No, you are not just an accountant. You're a painter and an accountant and a snowmobiler and then figure skater, and you love trees and you love birds. Like, you're all of it. You're all the things. And you're going to really start to feel like wherever I was trying to create this separation in my identity, that just doesn't work anymore. I don't feel the energy supporting it. All I feel is this desire to integrate all of these different personalities. Really, so many of us have multiple personalities, right? And smooth out the lines. I just feel so called to allow myself to be multidimensional, right? Or you're going to feel the friction if you're not in acceptance of that. You're going to feel the friction. You're going to feel the lack of energy. You're going to be trying to do a project and you're going to feel like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this going? Well, take a step back and ask yourself, what have I not accepted about myself? No more separation between all the different parts of you and the characters that you play in this reality. Those fractured realities create stress. when you are trying to be multiple different people, it creates stress because it's a fracture inside of your reality, a fracture in your energy, and you're trying to hold the separation. But we just talked in the opening monologue that there is no separation. The split cell is coming back into reconciliation in the fifth dimension. So you, as someone who came here to channel fifth dimensional energy into this reality, you're not going to be able to hold that fracture. You're not going to be able to hold those two parts of yourself apart. You're going to feel distress. You're going to feel the stress of trying to hold on to those fractures, trying to hold on to multiple identities, trying to hold on to multiple different truths that are at odds with each other, rather than taking a step back and saying, it's time for me to integrate my multidimensional self. I've got to smooth out the lines here. Accept who you are. Wherever you have not been in acceptance of who you are, it is going to become so blaringly obvious. And it's either going to cause a little collapse in energy in your field, a little disaster, or you can open your arms and say, I accept this about myself. And then you integrate the energy and you go on with your day. And yes, you're going to shock a few people around you, but you're a starseed, you're a light bringer, you're a luminary. Like, you came here to shock them. You came here, you're going to shock and awe them. And really what you're doing when you're shocking them is you are activating them. You're activating them. You're activating that energy of truth, of acceptance in their field. All of a sudden, they're going to go home and sit with themselves and say, man, I really felt something shift inside of me after that interaction. Maybe they change, maybe they don't. It's honestly none of our business. But I know that many of you are feeling the distress in your energy, the confusion, the lack of clarity, the frustration. Usually frustration is linked back to there's something in my field that I cannot accept. Acceptance of who you are, moving from that into acceptance of your mastery. Mastery is a topic that came up in a lot of my client coaching conversations and in the activations that we did in December. We did the sacred season activations, one of those opportunities to get channeled messages directly from your guides. And a recurring theme in many of them was accept your mastery. Accept that you are a master. You're not a little child. You are not inexperienced energetically. You are not lost. You don't need to continue the path of most resistance, right? Which is the rejection of your mastery. The easier way is for you to come into acceptance of your mastery. Allowing yourself to think highly of yourself. Think highly of yourself. Be proud of yourself. Celebrate yourself. Come into that moment of recognizing all that you have created in your life, all that you have accomplished, all that you have learned, all of the energy that you have refined. Something that I love that Abraham said in one of their channel transmissions is your inner being is never disappointed in what you've created. They are always celebrating everything that you've created. Your higher self, your non-physical, then that non-physical part of you is always in celebration of what you've created. It's just the lower mind, the 3D version of yourself that's like, gosh, I just wish that I would have made this differently or done this differently. That's because the lower mind is always thinking about the past. But your non-physical self is never thinking about the past, ever. They are always thinking about the present moment, and they're always in a state of constant celebration for everything that you have created. They see you as this lustrous, luminous being of light who is a creator, who's creating things that have never existed before in all of the universes. To them, that is a huge celebration. To them, that's a moment to have a party. But do you allow that same reverence, that same belief, that same acceptance and trust in your own mastery, that you are a master creator, that you are a master at ascension, that you are a master at energy? You are. You are. You can deny it right now all that you want. If you feel like you need to put your head in the sand for another few years, go for it, my friend. That's your personal decision. But many of you are coming to that breaking point of realizing I can either follow more of this stress and frustration and snap, or I can come into full acceptance of who I am and my level of mastery and start getting into the energy of truly seeing, loving, celebrating myself, sharing my multidimensionality with others. Are you in the full allowance and acceptance of who you are? Leads us into number 3, surrendering judgment for discernment and divine neutrality. The 3D reality is created from the energy of that split cell, right? That's why we have duality here. Judgment is a 3D frequency born from recognizing differences and then placing them above one another. It's this horrible Jenga set, really. It is, and it creates things like racism, homophobia, sexism. All of these isms are judgment, us saying, you are different from me, and I believe that this is better than that. That's judgment. It's born from recognizing differences and then placing them above one another, perpetuating the duality, right? We saw this with the kind of puritanical, which became like the nuclear family. And it was like the father is the head of the household and the mother is the servant of the father of the household and the children are the servants of the parents of the household. And then it transitioned into women should be seen and not heard. And then that became children should be seen and not heard. And so there was this hierarchy of power created by seeing differences in each other and saying, this is better than that. And that is how we got all of these horrific 3D experiences. Racism, homophobia, transphobia, seeing differences and saying one is better than the other. It is so time to leave that behind. We're perpetuating the duality even when we try to reverse it. Even when you try to say, this person who tried to set themselves up above us I am now going to believe that they are below me because I do not like the way that their judgment hurt me. Perpetuating the duality, causing stress when something is unequal to the other and you place it on top of it, that's when you start to create stress in the Jenga set, right? The judgment that we express on a daily basis in our lives creates stress. Now you've got a Jenga set that is ready to topple over and collapse. Many will try to just flip the script, to just say, well, whoever was persecuted in the past, now I'm going to try to put them up on a pedestal, and whoever was the persecutor in the past, I'm going to try to put them way down and like stomp on them with my heel. And I know because that has absolutely been my 3D reaction because I have felt some of those hurts as well. I have felt some of that pain of someone judging themselves to be better than whatever I was born as. And I know many of you have felt that on a deeper level than I could ever even try to empathize with, right? In a way that only you understand. Trade judgment for discernment. Judgment is a 3D frequency. So even if we try to flip the script and change it, really we just go to different ways of creating stress, and the person that negatively impacts is us. It's us. The stress happens in our bodies. The stress happens in our fields. The stress makes us sick. and I want the healthiest, most glowing and loving, abundant, amazing life for you, trade judgment for discernment. Discernment is the fifth dimensional frequency of sifting and sorting. The sifting and sorting nature of our universe. I like this, I don't like this. I discern that this is not for me and that this is for me. Discernment allows you to open the gateway to divine neutrality. Discernment is not placing one above the other. It's saying, I like this, I don't like this. But when you start to go into, these are all the reasons why I don't like this, you start to go back into that judgment zone. You start to drop the frequency instead of just simply saying, this is for me, this is not for me. I see what these other people out there are doing. What they're doing is not for me. And I decide that this is for me. What I prefer. It is your preference in the universe. You have preference all the way into the higher dimensional planes because you're still carving out experiences for yourself. So you have to have preference. You're not just a blob of energy in the universe with zero preference. You have preference. You do not have to drop the frequency back into judgment of placing one thing above the other, simply allowing it to be a plane of existence where you have sifted and sorted out your preferences. Feel the energetic difference in your body as a lot of that stress starts to leave. You start to feel the chest relax. You start to feel your hands relax. Oh, I don't need to go into judgment. I don't need to feel all of the frustration. I don't need to feed those energies. I don't need to feed what other people are perpetuating in these realities. I am coming back home to myself and I'm recognizing I like this. I don't like this. This is for me. That is not for me. That is not what I prefer. This is what I prefer. In all the different areas of your life, let go of the habit of judging, of saying, well, if that person likes that kind of clothes, then they're just, that kind of person, right? Letting go of the habit. It's a habit. It's an addiction of the mind to judge. And I know that it's triggering if you've been on the receiving end of judgments that have been persecution, but you can neutralize the energy. But you have to choose it, right? You have to start choosing it. You have to allow yourself to start dipping your toe in the water of what does it feel like for me to start letting go of engaging in judgment and trading it for discernment. This is what I prefer. This is what I do not prefer. I'm neutralizing the energy in my field. Now, all of those external judgments, they can't touch you when you allow yourself to neutralize the energy, right? Allowing yourself to neutralize the energy, discernment opens the gateway to divine neutrality. This is mastery level. The inner child is going to feel triggered by having this kind of conversation, but you are a master. And so I'm speaking to your fifth dimensional self that fully understands what I'm reminding you of. Divine neutrality. This is a stress-free state of being. Divine neutrality feels like oneness. It feels that neutral, judgment-free. I'm at peace. I have a clear knowing of who I am, what I prefer, what I do not prefer. Everything is brought back into reconciliation anyway. You have that remembrance with you. Everything's brought back into reconciliation anyway. I have to see all of these people in the etheric realm and on the next planet and the next and the next until we all ascend together. So even if they're being, a way that I do not prefer, I was going to say asshole. So I told you, judgment is an addiction of the mind. But we're going to trade asshole for a way that I do not prefer. If they're being a way that I do not prefer, I know that they're brought back into complete reconciliation anyway. So therefore, all energy spent on judgment is a complete waste of your time, a waste of your time, a waste of your energy, a waste of your focus that could be used to create a life that you prefer, an experience that you prefer. And I know that it seems like impossible. How do I create a life when there are beings out there who are judging and prejudicing against me? That's why we say you're standing at the leading edge of creation, creating something that has never existed before. And for many of us, we're creating things that have never existed in our lineage before. So it is a challenge. That's why point number 2 was acceptance of your mastery, because you really need your master to come in on this. This is mastery level. All energy spent on judgment is a complete waste of time, energy, and focus. Judgment is not a creative state. It's a state of separation. We cannot build on it. But from discernment, we can build and create what we prefer, what we want. Because now we're in a state of saying, I don't prefer, but I do prefer this. But I do like this. But I do want this. And we're more focused on what we want than on what we don't want. Because if you focus your godlike power on what you do not want, you will end up inadvertently and accidentally manifesting that into your reality. Many of you have heard this from me before. Where your awareness lands, the energy expands. From awareness is where we create what we are focused on. So in a state of discernment, we move away from the pedestals when we move into a state of creative preference. By no longer participating in judgment, I stop all of my participation in the energetic creation of judgmental systems. This includes all 3D hierarchies, all systems of oppression, which are based on judging and putting something above another. It is so easy to get caught up in the belief that, but if I just flip the energy and pull in this direction, that I will somehow win. And the truth is that when it comes to these hierarchies, systems of oppression, judgmental-based systems, what we really want is we want to break free. We're feeling this intuitively, energetically, on a subconscious level. I do not want to be a part of this. I want this to end. So how do we actually end it? It's not by flipping the script and pulling in the opposite direction. That's still participating in the system. That is still being in duality. We stop our participation. Stop your participation in judgment, and you stop all participation in the energetic creation of judgmental systems. Effectively, you're cutting off the energy and allowing those systems to further collapse as the energy is brought back to 0 point. This is challenging, especially in today's political climate and especially in today's society, when it feels like we are being called to pull in those opposite directions. And really, the system is collapsing on itself. The hierarchies are collapsing in on themselves. They can't actually withstand the higher frequencies that are coming into the planet right now. And those higher frequencies need their anchor points, which is us. We are the anchor points. We are the ones who are the conduits for those higher frequencies. So we have a choice to make. For me, I had to get to the point of discernment in realizing, okay, being a part of these judgmental systems is driving me crazy. It is driving me absolute. I feel like I told my guides, I was like, I feel like I'm being torn apart. I feel like I'm being torn in all of these directions. And they're like, the answer is don't participate. That's how you get out of those systems, is you cut off the energy that you are volunteering by your awareness, volunteering your energy. I know sometimes it feels like the energy is being sucked out of you and like you don't have a choice. You actually do have a choice, and you're actually offering your energy through your awareness. So if you withdraw your awareness, you cut off the energy. That is how you break free. And so I had to come to a point for myself personally of telling myself, if it's not the world that I'm here to create, then it is not my energetic business. I know on a soul level that where my awareness lands, the energy expands. Part of this kind of moment with my guides where I was saying, I feel like I'm being torn apart, and I was looking out one side and I was like, I feel this injustice, and I wish that I could do something. And my guides said, without missing a single beat, they were like, look at that system. That system will destroy itself. All of those people that you see participating in it, eventually they will stop their participation and the whole system will collapse. They will destroy themselves. You don't have to actually do anything. Those systems destroy themselves because all of the energy is being flatlined, 0 point. And it was such a freeing moment because there was no hesitation on my guide's side in their response. They already know. And even as I was still holding on, wanting to tug in my direction inside of these judgmental systems, these hierarchy-based systems, my guides said, do you want to be right? Or do you want to be in love? And they're talking about being in the frequency of love. And I started to see what it was costing me to hold on to being right. It was causing so much distress. I felt like I was being torn apart. I felt very angry. I felt afraid. I felt all of those 3D frequencies. The ick, right? The ick. They don't feel good. They feel icky. Seriously had the ick. And my guides were like, we see the distress that you're in. And so the question is, do you want to be right? Which is you staying in the duality, right, wrong, good, bad, hero, villain. Do you want to be right? Do you want to keep playing the story? Or do you want to be in love? You want to be in the frequency of love. And so I had to make that choice, surrendering judgment for discernment, divine neutrality. It is challenging. It's a challenging choice to remember how much power we have as creator beings, that where we give our awareness to, we are offering up our energy to those systems. And it's like, but I thought I needed to focus on it if I wanted to dismantle and destroy it. And they're like, you're so powerful that when you offer your energy to it, it just makes it bigger. You have to find a way. You have to make a choice to focus on what you actually want to create. And that's where I kind of came up with my truth. I don't know where yours is going to land. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know what you have to go through every single day inside of these systems. For many, it's going to be a way harder decision to make. But I had to find a truth in there. If it's not the world that I'm here to create, then it is not my energetic business. Which brings us to point number 4. Energy for 2025. The power of choice. States of being are a choice. You are the only one who has the power to make that choice. To make any choices for self. No matter how strong the illusion is that something external has power of choice over you, gets to decide for you, it is false power, it is illusion. You are the only one who gets to decide for you. You do not have power of choice for others. You do not have and can never have true power over others. Your power is your own. Their power is their own. power of choice. What are you going to choose? This is a level of emotional and spiritual maturity that we have to evolve to. We have to remember this level within ourselves, mastery level, right? Being able to see everything around you. This is why mastery, again, was point number 2. Being able to see that everything around you is your choice. Your choice, your choice, your choice, after a lifetime lived of believing that so much was not our choice. Living under that illusion, the power of that illusion, believing that that was reality, believing that that was more real than the truth of who we are, believing that the illusion of a physical world was more real than the energetic world, because everything in the physical world, as you perceive it, is all illusion. It's made out of energy. Energy is the only thing that's real anywhere. Your energy. You are energy. And so within that energy is power, right? This is why when we plug something in, we say, I'm powering it up. Who turned off the power? Somebody hit the lights. Where's the light? Turn the power back on. Power of choice. Your state of being at any given moment is a choice, one that you are able to bring in more awareness and say, who do I choose to be right now? Not a false self, but a truer version of self. Asking your higher levels, send me more awareness. Help me remember the truth of who I am. Help me remember more of my truth, which is energy, which is frequency, which is highest truth, highest love, highest power, revelations, parts of myself I didn't realize, more choices that I actually have that I did not realize were there. The power of choice brings us into point number 5. Miracle frequency is grounding into this reality. Energetic theme of 2025, miracle frequency, but grounding into this reality. You have heard me talk about miracle frequency on episodes before. This is called by us as we perceive ourselves to be humans, miracle frequency, but our higher levels would say just a truer frequency of you, the frequency of home, right? The frequency of instantaneous creation, instantaneous healing, things that just happen in a way that we perceive it to be a miracle. During my channeled activations from September all the way into about December 2024, I kept getting this repeat light language word. This comes from the title of this episode. I kept getting this repeat light language word. This rarely ever happens. I understand now more than ever after allowing myself to activate my light language crystals and to start to feel the translation of them energetically, right? It's not like translating from one spoken language to another. We don't do direct translations. There's energetic translations. So I understand the intention behind every light language that comes through in my transmissions and my activations. And often, because light language is speaking directly to your DNA, it's speaking to the energetic part of you. And where that energy starts to make manifest as you perceive the physical is in the DNA. And so often when the light language is coming through, these beings, your spiritual teams, are just talking to your DNA, changing and shifting and moving things around, releasing distortion. But something very peculiar started to happen in about September, October. I don't open my custom channel transmissions very often anymore, but I opened them up, and especially in the December one, it was like everyone's transmission had this light language word. It would just come through over and over and over. All different beings were using this word, and it would come through in many different intonations, and it was just across the board. And it started to become so familiar to me that I would say it while I was just walking around. I knew it was special, but I had not yet understood the translation, the energetic translation of it. And they would say, Excelsior, 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 over and over and over. Excelsior. Excelsior, Excelsior, over and over and over. I thought this word is so familiar to me, but I don't remember cosmically where I learned this. And then just the other day, I'm driving down the road and I pull up behind a New York license plate, right? I live in Washington State, so I live on the complete opposite side of the continent from New York. I used to live right next to it when I lived in Connecticut. But I pull up right behind it, a New York license plate, and it says Excelsior. And I go, oh my God, is that word? First of all, weird. Why did New York license plate have Excelsior on it? Right? And I was like, it sounds so much like that light language word that was coming through. And so I look it up, and it was kind of a wink moment between me and my guides, because I did study Latin for like 4 years straight. It's the only language that I've ever really studied. And I look up the meaning, and it's Latin for higher. Higher. That's the English translation that they've decided on for now, Excelsior. But my guides say the light language word that comes from, the energetic transmission, is Excelsior. Higher, higher, higher. It's the more precise and pure light language transmission for the activation of the Most High within you, miracle frequency within you, grounding into this reality through your carbon-based body. You are made of the earth. You are a conduit. So that energy coming from the Most High, your Most High, not this fake illusionary idea of some God sitting on a throne somewhere. You are that God. That is you. You are the Most High. But right now, this fractal part of you projecting into this reality is in the process of remembering that. You got to experience the forgetting of third dimensional reality. That's over now. It only exists now in our memory. That's where we've created everything since 2012 from memory. The energy is not actually active on the planet anymore. All of that energy, trillions, whatever the hell is beyond trillions, okay, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions amounts of energy brought back to 0 point, refined, sent out into the universe for co-creation. You are the Most High. That higher, non-physical part of yourself, the oversoul, the inner being, is now calling this part of you home. But you don't go anywhere. Home is a remembrance. You are home. You have to remember who you are. Excelsior, Excelsior, Excelsior. Higher, higher, higher. Miracle frequency grounded into this reality. Number 6, expansion. Expanding your identity and beliefs about yourself. Taking up more energetic space, no more hiding, no more smallness. This includes being seen, right? Because point number 1, energy number 1, the theme of 2025, everything is revealed. No more secrets, which means no more hiding. And that is expansion. You're going to be expanding your beliefs. You're going to be expanding your identity. You're going to be waking up and saying, I remember more about who I am. And so who I identify as has shifted slightly. I'm a more expanded version of myself than I have ever been before. No more hiding. Overcoming the limiting belief around being seen is going to feel much more effortless this year. This is something I've helped people with since I first started coaching in 2021. I feel that every human just has this limiting belief of like, I can't be seen. I don't want to be seen. I don't know how to be seen. I feel unseen. That was my big one. It was like middle child syndrome is basically like, I feel like everyone's forgotten about me. And literally there have been times when they literally forgot me and like left me somewhere. Okay, it's like middle child syndrome to the max. I feel unseen. Overcoming that is going to feel so much more effortless. Wherever you are needing to be seen, whether it's in your business, in your creations, in your relationships, with your family, with your partner, wherever it is that you were feeling unseen, overcoming that into the expansion, taking up more energetic space is going to feel so much more effortless this year. Yes, you might still have to do some introspection, but it is going to be overcome en masse this year. Number 7, galactic connections are going to be increasing. This is where this episode started. Way back in December, when I was kind of thinking like what's going to happen next year, I was talking to my guides and we had a lot of galactic kind of stuff on the table. It felt like we were getting very galactic, and then we had all the drones and all of that distraction come in, at least here in the United States. And so we had this like big distraction, and I was like, oh, that's such a like bummer, now people are going to see stuff in the sky. They're just gonna be like, yeah, it's a drone, and it's like, well, that's, that sucks. I felt like it was such a distraction. And my guides are like, no. We're massaging into the subconscious minds of your collective, being okay with there being things in the sky, not freaking out, allowing the nervous system to get acquainted. Allowing the nervous system to become acquainted. There are going to be things in the sky. This is going to increase throughout our entire lifetime. I hope that we have full and complete open contact. Some of my family and guides can like come and visit me. Like, please, I need that kind of level of support. But in truth, it will really happen in the way in which the population on Earth allows. And we are getting to the point where what will be allowed by the population here is there's this comfortability with the galactic nature. There's even a lot of like videos around online where people are joking about how if there were aliens, they just wouldn't even blink. They would just be like, how does this help me pay my rent? Or like, can the aliens like help me get health insurance? I know it's a very American joke, but stuff like that. People were making videos and I always laugh at it. I think it's funny, but really there is this subconscious feeling of like, it's okay. And maybe if things are kind of wonky around here, again, trying to not get into that frequency of judgment, but rather discernment, things are wonky around here. Maybe there is this more open feeling to galactic contact. Galactic connections are going to be increasing. You're going to feel it. Many of you are going to have a galactic awakening. If you haven't already had one, you're going to come into deeper levels of understanding about your galactic awakening. You're going to start understanding, okay, these are the families that I'm connected to. This is who is helping me right now on my journey. These are the ships that I have been on. This is the ship that's helping me right now. This is who I'm going to be more connected to. This is potentially a group that I'm going to start channeling on my own and bringing transmissions through. Because the next step for Gaians, which we call ourselves humans, but you're not the only humanoid species in this universe. So the next step for Gaians is to become galactic, right? The galactic Gaian. That's who we become. That's the next step. We don't jump to Ascended Master. You become galactic, get reacquainted with your galactic families. You have interplanetary travel restored to you. You transform your carbon body into a crystalline body. You might have outposts on other planets and start sharing your civilization with other civilizations, creating hybrid civilizations. And then you start to create local social memory complexes and all of your full psychic gifts are restored. And so creating those social memory complexes is all telepathic and all very effortless. And then you begin the path of ascending into Ascended Master level. And really, Ascended Masters are just groups of beings, and they just call themselves by one name because it's way easier. We are Yeshua. We are Sananda, which is actually the same group of people. Sananda's just slightly bigger as far as who's in that group. I love working with the Magdalens because instead of calling themselves Mary Magdalene, they were like, you can just call us the Magdalens. Like, we already know that you know that there's multiple of us. We don't have to pretend like we're one being, which we can if that would make you more comfortable. But really, we're all moving in such sync that you could either feel that it's one of us talking to you, or you could feel the multitude of us. I'm at the point in my channeling where I prefer to feel the multitude of them. And so they will typically introduce themselves as they, as in plural, and we as in plural, and then whatever name it is that they're using to identify. We are Quo, we are Ra, we are the Magdalens, whatever. They can also use I am. I am Ra, I am Quo, I am the Magdalens. This would not be incorrect. But I think that as you are ascending and remembering that you've done ascension on many planets before, you've done this step before, you've transmuted carbon into crystalline, you've gone from being in third density to fourth density, you've gone from a single species to a galactic species, like you've done all of this before. I think getting more comfortable with the enormity of it and how many other beings are ready to welcome you home. And again, home is a remembrance. Welcome you back into your galactic nature, back into your galactic remembrance, back into your galactic awakening. Getting comfortable with that, allowing yourself to start making some of those connections. Galactic connections are going to be increasing. What that looks like is different for each of you. In fact, to help you with this, my guides suggested that I do an episode just on my galactic awakening and just talking about what that experience was like and resources and higher truths that came out of it and how I started to become very comfortable with it when at first I felt like I was having a panic attack, right? I was definitely never, ever, ever that person. Before literally like the moment of my galactic awakening, I was never that person that believed in aliens ever. I thought if I have a nightmare, it's aliens. Now it's like, all I want to do is just like get off this podcast and go talk to them while I eat lunch or whatever. So people change. You're about to change. If you haven't had this experience, or if you have still felt the doubts, which I remember between my spiritual awakening and my galactic awakening, it wasn't very long that I had to feel those doubts, but I did feel those doubts and kind of the eye rolls. I remember a very prominent spiritual teacher, and she was like talking about Lemuria, and I was just like rolling my eyes at her, and I was like, oh girl, like what did you smoke today? And now I'm like, we will be channeling the Lemurian priestesses coming in. Have you all heard the Lemurian dolphins? They're so great. Honestly, some of my favorite beings. I don't do a lot of animal channeling, animal consciousnesses channeling, but Lemurian dolphins, they're kind of like a package deal with the Lemurian water priestesses. And I just absolutely love them. So yeah, people change, you change, and hopefully all for the better. Last point here. Energy themes 2025. Point number 8. Presence is the medicine for absolutely everything. If you took Activate Vision, we went deep into presence. And now so many of you guys who took that are telling me I'm seeing presence everywhere, and I feel like I am more present, and I feel the energy shift, and I feel the changes, and I feel the manifestations coming easier, and I feel the internal shifts coming easier. Presence is the medicine for absolutely everything. You're going to start hearing that word everywhere. You're going to start seeing it everywhere. And then you're going to have that moment of coming into understanding what it really means. And I don't know if I can put it into words for you, but what I am going to try to do is to put it into energetic activation for you so that you can feel and experience the truth of your own presence with a capital P for yourself. So I will be starting to publish at the top of every week, Sundays, Presence Microdose here on the podcast. Presence Microdose. Very short. You guys know I'm long-winded, so I'm going to try to keep it short. My goal is 15 minutes. We'll see if I can make it. I will be channeling my higher levels, and they're usually pretty good at collapsing time. So the goal is 15 minutes, presence microdose, something that you can listen to enter into a state of divine, full, complete presence. Here, presence, here, infinite now moment. I'm going to show you how to get into that state where you can feel the higher frequencies, where you can feel the wholeness. So no more emotional wounding, no more fracturing of the self. Feel the wholeness where you can manifest and experience your desires in the infinite now moment. I mean, it's like they said, presence is the medicine for absolutely everything. Whatever problems, issues you're having from 3D reality that you're ready to transmute, you can bring them into a moment of divine presence. When you are in presence, you are in fifth dimensional reality. Right now, as your eyes are opening wider, expanding, you're becoming more present, more aware. You're in fifth dimensional reality. We entered into that state of being fully and completely in 2012. I don't know if I need to remind you, but it's 2025. It's been available to us in the present moment, no matter what, fully and completely, since 2012. Entering into a state of divine presence, the infinite now moment, full fifth dimensional being. It's you, it's who you are. So the first presence microdose is going to be posted. It's going to be the episode right after this one. And we'll have new ones every week, kind of varying until I feel the fullness and completion of that project. But if you take anything away from this, take the most divine truth that I have for you in this moment. Presence is the medicine for absolutely everything. I know you don't fully understand the depth and breadth of that truth, but allowing yourself a moment to ask your higher levels, please bring me the understanding, bring me the awareness of this truth. I'm ready. I want to feel, I want to experience. What does it mean, truly, fully, completely, that presence is the medicine for absolutely everything? Ask your higher selves that question and allow yourself to open up and accept and receive the answer. Because I really feel like it's just going to blow you away. It's just going to blow you away. It blew all of us away in Activate Vision. We did presence every session, allowing ourselves. For one session, it was like almost the whole session. And then for others, it was like just a few minutes. And for some, it was just like 15 seconds. And we felt such deep, profound, lasting shifts. Excelsior, Excelsior, Excelsior. Higher, higher, higher. And away we go. Because Ascension is already here, rolling out, en masse, happening. We're in the middle of the alchemy. You are right on time. You are exactly where you want it to be. You have arrived at the exact present moment that you always intended to inhabit. And I'm honored, as always, to share any present moments with you. I hope if you enjoyed this episode that you will share it with a friend. I don't run ads for the podcast. I just share it with whoever's in the community. You guys share it, and it has grown completely organically. So I'm very grateful to all of those who have shared it with friends. Some of you have shared it with your clients. Very, very grateful for that. Beautiful beings of divine light, you already know that I will see you on the next one.